With a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a McLaren, a Porsche, you're paying for not just what the brand is, but for the performance, that sound, everything that goes with it that makes the car go fast and makes us smile. With something like a Rolls Royce, you're paying for the status, the prestige, everything that it means when this flying lady on the front precedes you wherever you go. Now, I've never loved the Rolls Royce product, I'll be honest about that, but I've been ready to turn over a new leaf and see just how it might feel to own one. And the perfect opportunity came up very recently for the latest running of the US Express. Now, after Cannonball ended in 1979, there were some crazy people like myself that decided they weren't done just yet. And so they started a continuation event called the US Express. And Taylor Hull, the professional drift driver, has reignited that. And we just ran it from New York to Los Angeles. And so just a couple of months ago, I bought this 1976 Rolls Royce Silver Shadow out of North Carolina, drove it here to Atlanta, fixed it up a good bit, drove it to New York, cannonballed to LA, and then we drove it to Vegas for SEMA. And I have to say, it is one of the most endearing cars that I've ever bought. It's a car that could be worth $2,000 or $200,000, depending on how you look at it, and I absolutely have had a blast in the 4,500 miles or so in ownership. I think it's beautiful, it's very comfortable, and as ridiculous as it is to say, the car has not let us down yet. So let's take it for a drive. I'll show you why it's so special, and then one of you is going to get to buy it because it is for sale right now on Sotheby's Motorsport without a reserve. So check out the link in the description below. Bid please, and come pick it up and continue the fun. Now that we have exited my neighborhood, I will concede that this is not a vehicle that you drive for your neighbors to take you very seriously. But it is a blast to take it anywhere, and I have been grabbing the keys a lot more often than I expected to since it got back. But I haven't owned the car long, but I've enjoyed every day of it, except for the days that I had to pay the service bills. But even then, like, you know, it was just the predictable stuff. All these things leak everything, but this one leaks within spec. But oh boy, look at that. I mean, it just lays on its side as you go around a turn. You feel like you're supposed to drive it like this, and the steering wheel's kind of built that way. But it just does all car things. There's no lights on. It's super quiet. It's not rattly. It actually goes a little bit. I mean, it's got a big V8 in it. It's a wonderful, wonderful car. We drove it all the way up to 122 miles per hour, 4 miles an hour faster than they said it was capable of in the little owner's manual, which we still have. This car was owned by the same family since 1979. Dear old granddad had bought it in the UK and went with the Rolls Royce Owners Club on tours of Saudi Arabia and Malaysia and all this. It's amazing how far the car has gone, and they were so excited that we were buying it to do a Cannonball style event. And so the car performed as we had hoped. I think it leaked, I don't know, 4 or 5 liters of oil, and or maybe burnt some of that too, and about the same in the fluid that is shared between the brakes and the suspension. That's one of those things about this car that, you know, everybody's really scared of because the hydraulic systems all leak, but that just lubricates the undercarriage to rest assured we won't have any more rust. But it does mean that if your suspension leaks too much, your brakes stop working. But fortunately, in this generation, they only used the hydraulic system for the rear suspension. So the front is fixed, and that is much, much better. It's a little squeak on some turning, but we'll get some WD-40 in there before the auction closes. But look, I bought this car for $10,750, which was a great deal relative to the market. Everybody asks for 18, 25 grand, but none of them have been driven anytime lately. So I was sending the Lemon Squad out to inspect these cars, and they need everything. This one was in pretty good shape. It had been very well loved, just not driven all that much. I think it had about 500 miles on it since 2018. And so it was the right car for us, and I've spent about 10 grand repairing it. The repair service invoices and things like that will be in the auction photos. But ultimately, now it is a relatively dependable car. It's gonna leave a few spots on your driveway, but that's what driveways are for. You could park it on top of a nice area rug to save its decency, and it just feels proper. I wish you could smell this car. It just smells like Prince Charles's ascot. It is exactly what you think it should smell like as soon as you open the door. The leather's all in good shape. It was repainted like 20 years ago, but man, I gotta say, I like it so much more than I expected to. And I mean, you know, this car's worth about what most high school kids around here are getting their parents buying them to drive. That's not what's going to happen to my kids, but why don't they just buy them Rolls Royces? That might happen. If it doesn't sell, which it's going to sell because there's no reserve, but this could be his first car. That is a bad parenting move. While we were cannonballing, we said we were racing to the scene of the breakdown, and we never got there. I didn't expect to like this car. I expected to enjoy dressing up like sheiks and paying a tribute to Jamie Farr's character in Cannonball Run and driving it across the country. That part was a blast. But to be quite honest, in a way that I couldn't love a drop head or a Wraith or whatever, I really like this Rolls Royce. And I don't know, maybe I ought to try a newer one. I don't think it's me, but hey, I didn't think this was either, and boy, it feels like me. And thank goodness my guys at DC Motor Works have some impressive ingenuity when it comes to locating the right parts and the right fluids, because they've got it dialed in. It drives so much better than it did when I drove it back from Charlotte. But even then, I went 700 miles on the car after it had just sat for 5 years, and it didn't let me down. I mean, it didn't let me down meaningfully. I didn't require assistance. We got it running. But I will sell it with a lot of extra fluids, which you will need. Depending on how fast you drive it and how long you drive it, maybe in the next week or so. But they're there, and I'll tell you where you can find some more. So bid early and bid often at Sotheby's Motorsport. You can own my shiny old Rolls Royce, and I can promise you it'll make you smile just as much as it makes me smile.